Okay, Liz Truss. So for those of you who don't know, Liz Truss is the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. She's most well known for, well, being a very short-lived Prime Minister for the United Kingdom. In fact, I think the shortest-lived Prime Minister in British history, with her government lasting, I think, less than like 70 or like roughly 70 days. And it got so comical at a certain point, somebody started a live stream where they compared the rotting of a head of lettuce to whether or not Liz Truss was going to lose her position first. And for the record, the lettuce won. Anyway, Liz Truss since then, the only other time I had heard of, you know, what she had been doing was that she had come out and said, hey, you know, House Republicans, you really should support aid to Ukraine. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't really pay any much more attention to her because, you know, she's across the ocean and our politics are very different and, you know, just have any reason to. Anyway, out of nowhere, she appears at CPAC over the weekend and she's on The War Room. For those of you who don't know, The War Room is Steve Bannon's podcast, like online show. And Liz Truss went on there. And man, it was weird because Liz Truss was supposed to like advertise herself to the British public, at least, as a kind of cool-headed moderate who's going to lead the country forward with fiscal conservatism in the interests of you know, the common man. For at least that was the idea. Like, she wasn't extremely good at getting that point across. She was terribly unpopular. But this is like the exact opposite of the motif that I had known her to be famous for, at least from an outsider's perspective. Look at how she behaves on Steve Bannon's show.
We love the strong Tories, not too crazy about the rhino Tories, right? Talk to us about it.
I wanted to cut...
By the way, rhino means Republican in name only. It doesn't work if you're talking about another political party.
I wanted to cut taxes. I wanted to cut the size of the administrative state, and those people didn't like it. The economic establishment in Britain wanted to keep things the way they were, and they did. They got me. But I have learned from that, Steve.
You did. Hold it. Was it The Economist that got you? Was it the Financial Times of London? Are these the people we got? This is the party at the City of London. Are they the ones that run the deal over there?
These are the friends of the bureaucratic establishment. They are the friends of the deep state. And they work together with bureaucrats, of which we've got many more in Britain than you have here in the United States, to keep things the same. And people in Britain aren't happy about that. They want change, but it's being stopped.
Dude, this is such a weird interaction because on one side, I'm thinking about Liz Truss and I'm like, Liz Truss, why is she doing this? And the only like conclusion I could come to is she had a very short stint as prime minister. Maybe she's not happy with that legacy. Maybe she needs a job after that legacy. For whatever reason, she has decided to go into the American media space and start casting herself as a crusader against the establishment in the United Kingdom, which is not true. If there is anybody that seeped establishment from the second she stepped into office, it would be Liz Truss in British politics, right? I mean, this is like... I mean, I don't know. It'd be like if Hillary Clinton in 2016 came up there and was like, I am the new hip alternative candidate. Woo! Yeah, I'm not a libtard. I'm an anarchist. It'd be like, where is this coming from, Hillary? Hillary, do you need a drone strike or two to get you back in your what's up with your mental health? It wouldn't make sense, and that's what I'm seeing right now with Liz Truss. And so it feels like maybe she failed so drastically to rule the United Kingdom, setting records both in the public eye and just when it comes to record keeping for how short her stint was, that now she needs to rebrand herself to try another run either at power or more likely, because I doubt, you know, with the state of the Tory party as it is, with unpopular as it is, as the polling data is being shown, that the answer in order to garner power right now is to lurch to the right in British politics. I would assume this is like some attempt of like podcasting or just building like a transatlantic audience. But it's just pretty pathetic, man. And on the other hand, with Steve Bannon, again, Liz Truss is somebody who's been a member of the establishment, part of the British elite class? Is it just because that she's willing to, like, I mean, I don't want to say degrade herself, I don't want to use that term, but that she was willing to bring herself down to this show's level, put on this shtick, whatever it is, that he's willing to put up with it and be like, yeah, the Financial Times, boo the press, with Liz Truss of all people? It's a very bizarre decision by Liz Truss. Didn't come off well. Where is the Liz Truss? Where are the press? Here it is. So for those of you who don't know, Liz Truss was on a radio show, or on, I don't think it's a radio show, it's an internet show hosted by Steve Bannon called The War Room, where they talk about all sorts of stuff, how we need to stop sending aid to Ukraine, and how they need to take on the deep state. But Steve Bannon was somebody who was at the start of Trump's administration, but was kicked out for a bunch of things, but one of them being him being kind of like too crazy, kind of too out there. He did found Breitbart News after all. Anyway, after Liz Truss went on the show, he talked about the deep state and how the press are the enemy of the people. And she kind of stood there and nodded her head, smiling. And after that, Steve Bannon went on to make a speech at CPAC. Here is the speech. Here is part of it. This is I'm just going to let it speak for itself. There's a lot of weird things you can show of Steve Bannon, but this is what he decided to say in front of a crowd of people.
Today, in this very hall, the greatest president of the 20th and 21st century sat here and said he's a political dissident. He's persecuted. That is a mark upon our country because it's absolutely true, 100% true. And why is he a dissident? You know why? Because he gave us...
By the way, the president is a dissident. I love that. I love that idea.
3 years of peace and prosperity before he was hit with a Chinese bioweapon.
Fucking what?
And they stole the 2020 election. Media, I want you to suck on this. I want the White House to suck on this. You lost in 2020. Donald Trump is the legitimate president of the United States.
So to be clear, Chinese bioweapon destroyed Trump's presidency. There was peace and prosperity until that hit America. So I guess like Yemen just isn't happening. The huge escalation in drone strikes and the increased drone troop deployments in Afghanistan didn't happen. The fighting in Syria with ISIS and continuing Operation Inherent Resolve, which, by the way, I thought was a good thing. Fighting ISIS, I think, is good. There's so much that just wasn't peace, right? But putting all that aside, Trump won, and he's the legitimate president. He didn't provide any evidence. He didn't feel the need to. All he said with those words, and now you can see there's a whole crowd raising out of their seats, clapping, as the trust in the institution of our electoral system continues to diminish. And the less trust that these institutions, which were constructed socially, the less social weight they have and the American people give them, the less power they have, the more degraded they become, and the more justification there is for bending that system, or just straight out dismissing it or abandoning it altogether. Which, I would say J6 was an example of people trying to do that.
Trump won! Trump won! Trump won! Trump won! Trump won! Trump won! You know
weird,
how
man.
We know categorically that Trump won now? Because the New York Times...
By the way, let me just say this. I feel like sometimes it doesn't need to be said, but, just as a reminder for those of you who have kind of let the patheticness of this kind of just slip you by after seeing people say this so many times. This is unbelievably pathetic. It has been 4 goddamn years, and this guy, who was kicked out of his administration, by the way, is still, and it's not just him, it's Trump himself, it's many people in his cabinet, many people in his circle, much of the Republican Party is still going out on this beat that Trump won. And he goes further. He's the real legitimate president. He's living in a fantasy in his head. He's playing dolls with politics. Like, my guy's the real president. Your president, you got the fake I got the real president. And He's speaking at CPAC, and it's taken seriously, and the crowd is cheering. The crowd is just I don't mean this to degrade it as you know, completely useless or worthless, or saying that none of these people have any political power. They do. I'm just saying that on a, you know, on a character level, it's both pathetic on Steve Bannon's front, it's pathetic on CPAC's front, and it's pathetic on the front of everybody in the crowd standing and clapping and cheering for this fantasy they have constructed for themselves.
And MSNBC and the Washington Post understand we're about to out them, right? We're going to adjudicate this after
I didn't even know they were trans.
Victory. If Biden actually won, he would be a revered hero to them. If Kamala Harris had really been the wingman, she'd be a revered hero. The New York Times is throwing Biden under the bus every day and backing him up over him.
Or maybe they're doing journalism, and when Biden messes up, they have to report on it, or they should report on it, and so they reported on it. And when Biden's 81 years old and the oldest president in American history, you know, they ask questions as a journalist should.
That shows you they know he's an illegitimate regime head. He's a usurper in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
It makes no sense. So the press who worked to help get him elected are turning on him because he's illegitimate. So they're giving open signals to the public that he's an illegitimate president and he's a usurper. By the way, this is the type of stuff you would expect to see like a manifesto for somebody who tries to go and shoot Biden. Just throwing that out there. Just, he's a usurper of the real legitimate president. And just Trump won. Like this is the type of stuff I would imagine a Trump supporter would do before going in front of the DNC and lighting himself on fire for Trump to be president of the United States again. Right? This is bizarre. Anyway, I already talked about Liz Truss's appearance and I showed it last time. So here is Liz Truss being pressured by the British press, which sometimes tends to be a little bit more, I would say, aggressive than our press when dealing with public officials. Look how she's dealt with when she is engaged by them. Now, there's a few things that are going to be brought up here. For example, when Liz Truss was on Steve Bannon's show, he called Tommy Robinson, the far-right British activist, a hero, and Liz Truss kind of stood there and just smiled and kept going. And so that's where the starting question here is going to start us.
Ms. Truss, Tommy Robinson was described as a hero in front of you. Why didn't you speak up? Ms. Truss, do you think Tommy Robinson is a hero? Ms. Truss, is describing the civil service and journalists as the deep state really responsible? Ms. Truss, do you think they're responsible for your downfall, the civil service and journalists?
Downfall.
The Financial Times, the deep state, Ms. Truss? Ms. Truss, can I ask you about Lee Anderson? Do you think he should be replaced back into the Conservative Party? Do you think his comments were correct? Were they Islamophobic comments, Ms. Truss? Ms. Truss, nothing to say about Tommy Robinson and nothing to say about Lee Anderson?
So she walks away. She's dodging it. She's getting like thrown over the coal, dragged over the coals over this. There was some political cartoon. I don't know if I can find it. Let's see. Maybe if I look up Liz Truss cartoon, maybe it'll come up. That showed her like as a MAGA conservative. This isn't it. You know, that's kind of funny too. My leadership was tragically cut short too next to Abraham Lincoln. My God. Oh, they depicted her as the cabbage. I mean, the head of lettuce that outlasted her. For those of you who don't remember, there was a live stream that tried to see if a head of lettuce would outlast Liz Truss's premiership, and the head of lettuce did end up winning. Here it is. Here's the cartoon. Here's a cartoon by political cartoonist. One second. By the Political Cartoon Gallery in London. Huh. My goodness. Little rookie Rishi Sunak. He's so nervous.